think of 1998, that major year for hip-hop. DMX put out 2 projects that year. Eminem, Lauryn Hill, Outkast, Jay-Z. But you broke through, 4 million records sold. What do you remember about that year?
Cash Money Records taking over for the 99 and the 2000s.
Today I got one of the hottest artists in the whole entire country, straight representing that uptown third wall, Magnolia.
I'm Juvenile, Nino, TCA Buster.
We got the legendary
Juve. He's from the Magnolia.
Although the South's rap foundations had already been laid a few years prior by J. Prince and the Ghetto Boys, it was New Orleans that would take Southern rap to a mainstream level, as Master P and his No Limit label, hailing from the Calliope projects, would flood the market and drop album after album, dominating the Billboard charts. However, Juvenile, hailing from the Magnolia projects, slightly north of the Calliope, would drop arguably the best album of 1998, both in hip-hop and mainstream music, as 400 Degreez hit the streets.
Los Angeles police are investigating the shooting of rapper Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls.
Rap star Tupac Shakur last night after a brief life in a rough business. He was 25.
In 1998, hip-hop was at a pivotal moment, balancing mainstream dominance with regional diversity between the 2 powerhouses on the East and West Coasts. On the East Coast, though Biggie had passed in 1997, life after was still a major force. Jay-Z rose to another level with Hard Knock Life Volume 2, and DMX exploded onto the scene with its Dark and Hell is Hot and Flesh of My Flesh, bringing raw energy to New York rap. Out on the West Coast, Tupac had passed away in 1996, and Suge Knight was fighting legal battles after Dr. Dre had left the record label, while Snoop Dogg continued evolving, dropping The Game Is to Be Sold, Not to Be Told, under No Limit. But the South was making undeniable noise. Outkast had already been pushing boundaries, but it was 400 Degreez that made Cash Money impossible to overlook. Juvenile's raw, bounce-driven sound was different from anything coming out of New York or LA, and it gave hip-hop a fresh new outlook. Master P had already shown that the South could move units, but Cash Money brought a new energy, more flashier aesthetics, and a new production style, thanks to Mannie Fresh, that would shape the next era of hip-hop.
When you think of 1998, that major year for hip-hop, DMX put out 2 projects that year. Eminem, Lauryn Hill, Outkast, Jay-Z. But you broke through, 4 million records sold. What do you remember about that year?
98 was kind of like one of the best years for, I think, music, period. I don't think nobody sold more records than that year. I don't know what the numbers was, but it was crazy.
It was booming.
Everybody was successful.
Released on 3rd of November 1998, 400 Degreez proved to be an album that was well-rounded and aesthetically pleasing. Mannie Fresh's production on the album was a masterclass in southern bounce, with the catchy hooks and bounce beats. Mannie Fresh legit made every track on the album feel like an anthem. His beats had a club-ready energy, but also a raw, street feel that set Cash Money apart. For example, on Heart, the beat is minimal and is built around eerie synths, and it can be argued that it's almost like the South's answer to New York's boom bap. Stripped down, repetitive, but undeniably catchy. Then on Back That Thing Up, which became an instant classic, Mannie Fresh's ability to blend funk with club energy was on full display here, using a more distinctive bounce beat alongside the iconic strings at the start made Back That Thing Up reminiscent of New Orleans' music scene at that moment in time.
You done made it from the bottom all the way to the top. Tell me what's happening in the Juvenile's world.
It's like full mics in the source. I mean, it's like Vibe, it's like MTV, it's like BET. You know what I'm saying, man? Y'all watch The Box. Y'all see the boy in the Reeboks. What's up?
When was the moment y'all realized Back That Ass Up was a cultural anthem?
I would say probably at the 10-year mark, you know, when I start realizing that, wow, I'm never gonna get a chance to take a break. People gonna keep on trying to book me for shows, bar mitzvahs, weddings.
Juvenile's flow was raw, unpolished, and full of New Orleans swagger. His raspy voice and unorthodox cadence made every line feel as if he was talking to you rather than rapping at you. He wasn't trying to sound like Nas or Tupac. He was 100% himself, and that authenticity hit hard. Tracks like Ha showcased his almost conversational delivery, where he'd stretch and chop words in a way that felt effortless yet distinct. 400 Degreez wasn't just an album, it was a statement, putting New Orleans hip-hop on the national stage and solidifying Cash Money Records as a powerhouse. Unlike the smoother sounds of Outkast or No Limit's military-styled grit, Cash Money's bounce-driven, flashy style was uniquely New Orleans. Juvenile painted vivid pictures of life in the Magnolia Project, from the struggle to the come-up, making the album resonate far beyond the South.
I'm an OG in the game. Y'all gotta respect the game. All this little bounce stuff you see all these people out there filing behind trying to do, they can do it, but they can't do it like I did it because I'm the originator. Where that concept came from for I gotta admit, man, it's all on my peoples that's surrounding you right now in this store. By me being in a Magnolia, I call my style off the post flow. So I took the everyday slang, the ball went to the store, Say, brother, the Saints win that last game, You know, like that. That's Juvenile. That's everyday slang. So look, that's the way I bring it to you.
Jay-Z's verse on because he said in New Orleans, everybody was like, man, this is whack, man. I don't like Jay on this.
They did. For real? Dog, Tupac kind of made people in New Orleans not like Jay-Z, and Jay-Z ain't did nobody nothing. You know, I was a Jay-Z fan. People felt like they had to choose.
Gotcha.
You like, you got Pac riders everywhere. So all the Pac, New Orleans is full of Pac riders. They wasn't gonna listen to Jay-Z. But in this era when Jay-Z jumped on my song, he was just starting to like break through, you know, in New Orleans. Like they starting to play him in the clubs and stuff like that. But you still had your heads out there who just didn't want to hear it. And I feel like him jumping on kind of broke the ice for both of us, for him in the South and for me up here, because man, they was playing it, but it got crazy when he got him.
On the title track, Juvenile goes off, showing why he was more than just a hitmaker. His delivery, charisma, and confidence showed why he was Cash Money's main artist in the late 90s, heading into the 2000s. The title track essentially became a mission statement for Cash Money. Raw, cocky, and impossible to ignore.
So 400 Degreez is still your favorite song to perform?
Yeah, it is. That's my thing.
That's a Negro spiritual too, though.
Hello?
Yeah.
Especially
you see me at East talk. You see that 98 Mercedes on TV? I bought
that.
I'm telling you, Chargers, I bought that. That's one of them ones now. Yeah.
On flossing season, he lets everyone know that he's here just to stunt on them. Juvenile's braggadocious flow over a signature Mannie Fresh beat made it a flex anthem, showcasing Cash Money's flashy, big money mentality. Juvenile would also get a remix for Ha, as Jay-Z made a guest appearance, therefore becoming the first East Coast rapper to work with a Cash Money artist. Unlike some southern rappers who tried to fit in with the East or West Coast, Juvenile owned his New Orleans roots. His slang, flow, and storytelling made people feel connected, whether they were from Louisiana or not. Before 400 Degreez, the South was fighting for respect. After it, there was no denying that the South had next.
Don't never forget about where you come from. Stay focused. Don't get that big head. That big head to be stars, like my folks say. Stars this year won't be stars next year. It's about longevity. If you ain't got no longevity set in your heart, and you ain't got the mind frame to stick to this, you might as well give it up before you start.
1998 was most definitely stacked with legendary albums. Outkast dropped Equemini, a lyrically deep and experimental piece. DMX brought the grit, pain, and intensity on It's Dark and Hell Is Hot, and also on Flesh of My Flesh. Jay-Z dropped The Hard Knock Life Volume 2, an album filled with mafioso slick talk and a few commercial hits, and the all-time classic, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, a project filled with R&B, soul, reggae, leaning more into a neo-soul type of vibe. But I would argue what puts 400 Degreez above all these other classics was the versatility that Juvenile brought to the table. The street bangers, club anthems, and braggadocious raps. 400 Degreez was also New Orleans through and through. There was no attempt to sound like anyone else, just pure southern hip-hop. Numbers-wise, 400 Degreez was a monster. It had the most sales of any Cash Money Records album ever, all the way up until 2016 when Drake released Views. The project also went 4 times platinum, which for a southern rapper in 1998 was unheard of. This was still the era of East Coast lyricism and West Coast dominance, yet Juvenile held his own and won. But the impact wasn't just about sales, it was about what came next. 400 Degreez was the spark that lit the Cash Money empire. Lil Wayne, Birdman, BG, Mannie Fresh, and the entire movement took off from here. Without this album, it can be argued that there is no Cash Money dominance in the early 2000s. Comment below if you think Juvenile was underrated, or do you think there's another project that takes the crown of being the best album of 1998?